It's a stormy weekend on the Outer Banks. It's big northeaster going off the coast, and back here on this little trail by Adeline Lighthouse, it's kind of, the wind's kind of damped down because of the trees. But even back in here, you look, it's still spitting rain and windy, and air temp's probably 70, and the wind chill with the moisture in the air probably making it feel like 60 or something like that. But this drizzle, the reason I wanted to make the video is because when I got out of the truck, it's been raining a little bit harder. I was waiting for a break in the rain, jumped out of the truck, and that drizzle was, that wind driven, it's blowing like 30 miles an hour out in the open, and it was just beating up against my back, and it wasn't a lot. But I went and I grabbed this cotton sweatshirt that I have, and threw it on, and basically what I'm trying to say is that there was nothing about that little bit of drizzle and rain that was really of any kind of concern as far as my actual well-being. But the primitive brain doesn't know that I'm 50 yards from my truck, or if I'm in the middle of a wilderness somewhere. It's just like when you get into a cold bath. You got complete control over everything getting into that cold bath, or some others. It could be many, many different things you can make this comparison to. Don't have to be just physical things. It could be, what the point is, it could be things that are in our social settings, that are work settings, or whatever. But the primitive brain doesn't make a distinction between those things. It just says, you got cold rain hitting your back sideways. Alert, you could be in danger. It's like it's a very dumb mechanism, in terms of, when I say dumb, not dumb, it's a very important mechanism, but it's not the intelligent part of our brain. It's the very basic instinctual part of our brain. And so that's kind of also like jumping in a swimming pool, assuming you know how to swim and everything. And your breath, especially if the pool is like cold or cool or something like that. But even a warm pool, your body has a reaction to that initially. Here's a big change in environment. You get a little adrenaline pumping, you get a little more alertness. Those are all important, but we have to be able to read the situation with our cognitive, with our intelligent brain, to really analyze what the situation actually is, and so that we learn to be aware of our emotions, our feelings, our instincts, so that then we can gauge the real situation and how to respond. We don't want the primitive brain to determine how we run our lives. And that's just, look, there's a cormorant over here. The cormorants get wet in this rain, and they can't fly. They want to stay up here, or maybe they can fly, but they try to get up out of the rain so they could dry off. It's okay, cormorant. All right, I'll let you back up on the bank. So they don't have oil on their feathers like the ducks do. The cormorants, once they get soaking wet after these storms and the wind's blowing, they have to dry themselves off. And you see them sometimes, like after a big storm, they don't really, they just won't. You basically just drive right up, walk right up to one, because they get all wet like that, and then they don't want to fly, or can't fly. There's more people out here around. out there with his cast net, and there's a guy walking up with his fishing rod. So anyhow, just remember to be aware of your feelings and your emotions and the situation that you're in, and practice that. Especially practice it when you're in safe situations, because when you get into dangerous situations, it's actually something that we develop in a skill set. And because we're in our modern life, it's such a protective environment. I saw a dead snake on the ground, little glass snake. But I mean, that's essentially why, in a very broad sense, big sense, why modern society moves in the direction that it moves in. We're essentially moving in a direction that anyhow, I get messages and everything else. It's crazy. I was just sitting here reading stuff and nothing was happening on my phone, and now a bunch of modern life, you can't escape. To get you from everywhere. Text messages, notifications, everything else. But anyhow, modern society moves in a direction to try and limit. It's basically trying to make itself safe all the time, safer and safer and safer every generation. With technology, doesn't mean that we always move in that direction, but that's kind of the big picture sense of what humanity has moved from. You know, we moved from hunters and gatherers to agrarian to et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we live in such a protected environment with our nice houses and our warm clothes and all of these things. We have to make it a point to teach ourselves how to regulate our emotions and things. We have to actually put effort into that. We don't have as much exposure to nature and the wild and things that our ancestors did, and so there's some skills that we need to be cognitive of developing. And one of them broadly is the ability to be analytical and be observant of our base emotions and instincts and reactions. And sometimes we have to go with our quick reactions, but normally speaking, you just don't want to freeze in a situation, really. So, and as long as you're in harmony with yourself, you won't. I mean, sometimes your reactions will take over, and that will just happen. But more realistically, and more of the time, we have to be able to make decisions, and we have to calm ourselves down. There's lots of things we can do to do that. Some of it's just a mental practice. Some of it's you can actually use like breath work and things like that. And other things, sit down, get away from noise if you can, stuff like that. But anyhow, I love you, and it's stormy on the Outer Banks.